All right, so I'm going to talk about the SteamOS a little bit because I've been working on Juju really hard, and I figured I would spend all my spare time doing more Linux things because my wife really loves that. So everything I'm showing you here, you can reproduce at home. However, I'm going to give you some caveats. Number one, if you think, oh my God, Valve is going to do Linux, I can just eBay my Xbox and move a computer into my living room and think that's just going to work, let me just tell you right now that is not. So, if you're going to do any of this, I highly recommend you do it in a place where you have a keyboard and a mouse and not have computer parts and power supplies in your living room. Running back and forth trying to run an Ethernet cable in the middle of the night. So if you want to try this, I recommend you do it like in your little workspace where you're comfortable. Then, when you're finished, then move it to your living room. Because that would have really helped my marriage out a lot. Okay, so how many of you guys have heard of Steam? Okay, does anybody not, do I have to explain Steam to anybody? Okay, so Steam is basically a digital delivery system of video games. You basically put your credit card number in here, and it says, these are your games, and then you buy them. It automatically downloads them for you, puts them in this little menu, connects you to your friends, connects you to the community, so each game has like its own forum and things like that. What's really nice about this is all these games in here are managed through Steam, so when a game gets a patch or something, it all goes through the Steam manager. The old days of PC gaming totally sucked, right? You would get different games, and then each of them would patch differently and all that stuff. So Steam kind of brought that all together, and this is what classic Steam looks like, right? You have the games on the left here, and then you would fire up Steam, and then here are your downloads, and then you would go and you would hit play, and this will launch your game, and then you would play your game. At some point, however, the guys at Valve decided that it'd be really cool to do a console. So the Valve guys have publicly said that they did not like Windows 8, and I don't want to get into that. But whatever their motivations were, it's good for us because they're going to start not only making a console, but a console platform that is built on Linux. And it's going to be really awesome. So, what they did recently is they announced three things. The first thing was SteamOS, which is basically a operating system that you load on a computer, and it gives you a console-like experience, which I'll show you here. The second thing they announced is the Steam Machine, which are basically PCs with certain hardware requirements that Valve will be certifying as Steam machines. You put SteamOS on these, and then you get a console. And the third thing they announced was a controller. How many of you have not seen the controller they announced? It's totally sweet. So let me just show you guys here real quick. So what's really interesting is they basically said, so here's what it, hold on. Where's a picture? There we go. So what's cool about this controller is those are touchpads and buttons. The middle thing is a touchpad and a button. 4 physical buttons in the front, 3 at the bottom, 2 physical touchpad-y buttons at the bottom. And they said, what really sucks about consoles is you can't play like Age of Empires or RTS type games. You need a keyboard and a mouse. What if we made a controller that kind of allowed you to do all those things? And I thought that was pretty cool. So those are 3 things they announced. What's really great is they announced that the SteamOS will be open source, which is really great. The console itself is basically a PC, but they will be sharing the design specs, even the CAD drawings of the case, so anyone can make one. And the controller is going to be open hardware as well, so they want people to hack these things. Which means that while Valve will be making a Steam box, anybody with a PC and SteamOS can make a Steam box and kind of replicate the experience at home, because at the end of the day, Steam is just the same software. So, because I had too much money laying around, I decided to build a Steam machine. So when I was like, sick of this Xbox. Then I looked at the hardware requirements for the games I wanted to play, and the video card alone was like the price of the Xbox, so I spent a lot of money, and I sacrificed the machine. I had like 2 PCs open. My wife comes in, I've got like beer, 3 power supply. I bought my power supply was like too small, so I went to Micro Center. By then I was already committed. It was like midnight on Saturday, and I had like cables everywhere, and it was just a horrible experience. But here's what I learned. So SteamOS is basically a stripped-down operating system. I don't have any inside information, but if looking at the dev repositories from Valve, it's probably Ubuntu 12.04 with recent NVIDIA drivers added, and it launches Steam in big picture mode. So what I did here is I installed Ubuntu 12.04 and the NVIDIA drivers, and then I made it so that when you auto-log in, it launches Steam in big picture mode. So big picture mode is something that they've been finalizing over the past year. So when you boot in the machine, instead of this traditional interface, you get this. So this is Steam Big Picture mode. The machine actually boots into this. And what's cool here is they can connect to, it's designed to be used by a controller. Now if you're going to build this at home, Xbox controllers are actually very normal PC friendly. They run in Ubuntu very well using an Xbox DRV driver. However, you do need a dongle for your machine. So if you have a spare machine, if you go on Amazon and say Xbox controller dongle, there's a fake one on there. Do not buy that one. Make sure you actually buy the one from Microsoft. Because that one works beautifully out of the box in Linux. We don't thought I'd ever say that. But the one doesn't. So this is what Steam looks like. How many of you guys have an Xbox or something like that? So it's kind of similar to this. So they have a store. These are all the games that are available. Unfortunately, it shows you the games from every platform. So if you say, oh, I want to get this game, you see here, this game's only available for Windows. So that's kind of a bummer. But what they do in the Linux version is we have our own little section here where they have Linux games. So Steam is all about buying games and playing games. So you can come through here, and let's say you want to buy a game, which there was a game I was saving to buy. So, and they're actually adding a lot of games all the time. But there was one interesting one I was going to buy. I have FTL already, I think. Let's pretend I wanted to buy this game. Now, this is something new here. So for a lot of these games, because they were designed for PC, Valve's making it so that it's obvious to you whether something supports a controller or not. So you want to look for games that have a full little controller on there, like this one. And you say, oh, this game looks pretty cool, it's 19 bucks. Those are all the platforms it runs on. You come here, and then you say, I want to buy, and then it's connected to my account, and I can add to cart and buy it. But I will not be buying this. So that's a store. They also do really clever things. They put games on sale every day, every week, and on the weekend. It's 3 different sales. So it kind of makes you fired up once a day, and I always want to see for sale, which is not very good for your bank account, but very, very, very clever. So this is the daily deal for the day. And they're always doing things on sale, which is pretty cool. So that's the store. I'll come to library last. Community, this is pretty cool. All your Steam friends are available on here. It's like a network like everything else, but you can see what games people are joining, what groups they're joining, what achievements they've achieved in each game. What's really nice here is that you can talk to any one of these guys. This is kind of cool. This is called the Lotus Flower. It's like an input system. You can say, let's see. This is kind of cool. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have an Xbox, but there they give you a QWERTY keyboard and you have to navigate this way. I'm finding this to be a little bit better. Either way, I still think I want a controller with a keyboard on it. Also, if you think that you're going to build one of these and only use a controller, that won't work. You're going to find yourself switching back to the OS and doing things and manually doing a lot of things. So if you have a wireless keyboard and mouse, I recommend that. Logitech makes really cheap ones that work great in Linux. These are like 50 bucks. Of course, wireless thing. So this is nice too. What's really great to hear is when you're actually in games, it'll tell you when someone signs in and stuff, just like an Xbox experience. It also has a built-in web browser. Let me just put out everything. So left trigger gets you to the web. You can go to Google. They call this the world's first-person shooter browser. That you can tag and you can scroll and zoom in and out and things like that. It's not very useful for typing things, but in places where they haven't finished the Steam UI, the native UI, it'll take you to like the web page, and it's enough to read the news or something like that. So it's really interesting. So left trigger takes you to the web. Right trigger always takes you to friends. There's voice stuff, but I haven't really played with that yet. Of course, you get your little messages. This is probably someone inviting me to be their friend or something like that. So Valve's giving away 300 hardware prototypes, but in order to qualify for one, you have to have 10 friends, so everyone's like friending each other. Pretty clever. You see what Valve is doing there? Very clever. Yeah. So the cool part here is a library, of course. So this is, the bummer here is that it also shows you games. So this is actually a dual boot machine. I have a Windows partition on there also booting into Steam, because some of the games, like this Pac-Man game, only runs on Windows. What's really great about Steam, though, is a bunch of the games use what's called cloud saves, which will save the save game into the cloud for you. So you can actually move to a different machine, log in, and then play your game. This is really useful in dual boot because I'll play the game when I'm booted in Linux, and then I happen to be booted into Windows, and I go back where I left off. It's pretty nice, but not all games support that. So it defaults to recently played. These are all the games that I have for every OS, but these are just my Linux games here. I'm going to show you just a controller. I'm going to give you an example of a game that's done really well and a game that's done really poorly as far as when it comes to integration with the Steam box. So this game, Mark of the Ninja, it has full controller support, right? You boot up, you hit, right? It shows you, what are your friends playing, guides, you can read, all the stuff about the game, achievements, if you're into that stuff. But you hit to launch the game, and then it actually launches the game. If you're going to build one of these, some advice is, I had a spare 2 terabyte hard drive laying around. It's a NAS hard drive, one of those really slow ones, and I didn't think that on a gaming machine you needed fast I/O. So if I were to rebuild this again, use like a normal hard drive instead of like a WD green or red or something like that. That's why the game is a little bit slow. As you can still see, there's still some, compared to launching like a game on a PS3, you still get some artifacts, right? Like, why is there a mouse cursor there? I don't know. When it boots up, sometimes you see mode flickering and things like that, whereas on an Xbox and a PS3, it's really nice and smooth. I anticipate, since the hardware is like a targeted platform, that they'll fix those with NVIDIA over time. So it is kind of slow because of the I/O, but this will launch the game at some point. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Do you use it as like a video player, media library like that?
No, so it does not have, it's not like the Xbox where you can do videos or music or that kind of stuff. However, it does have the capability for you to add custom shortcuts. So you can say launch and then XBMC or Plex or whatever your media center is. But then you screw yourself because you go and you try to use it with a controller and that doesn't work. Then you find yourself downloading every possible controller software that you can, trying to figure out how to navigate, and then it's 3 in the morning and you're like, I'll just wait for Valve to figure it out. So this game should be launching, or it could be crashing.
Not everybody gets this access.
Yeah, most of us.
Trying to remember how many years ago it was, but somebody was developing a mobile type device that you use all 4 fingers. They had the alphabet. You got enough buttons on there, maybe you could look it up and figure out if you could. A is these 2 keys and B is these 2.
Oh, like a chording keyboard?
Yeah.
Okay, so this used to work and it doesn't now, which is totally awesome. So some things to remember here. A lot of people are hacking and playing with these now that they've submitted the hardware specs. So what's going to happen is when they launch an actual SteamOS ISO, I'm going to blow this away and just do the full thing. The operating system and the games just auto-update all the time. So every day when I fire it up, it does a little auto-update, and then something that was broken the day before is fixed. Building your own PCs, again, I bought a console because I wanted to play games and not build PCs all day. And about halfway through, I realized it was too late. But it is a fun project, and when it actually is up and working and you're choosing the right games on your big TV and 5.1 surround sound, it's really, really awesome. So this week, I put my Xbox on Craigslist, and I'm going full Linux for gaming. So every time I'm launching a Linux game, I'm buying it to show them that I'm ready to go. The Mark of the Ninja game is great. I paid $6 for it, and it's given me over 40 hours. And Joe can attest to the amount of entertainment value that I'm getting for this game.
How much entertainment value is she getting?
Not much.
Is there the market, the store where you buy games?
Yes.
Is it kind of like an Apple app store where,
Yeah.
where I could develop something and put it up?
Yeah, so they have this cool thing called the Steam Greenlight, which is like this community run where people will have ideas for a game and then they can build and get funding and stuff. And
Oh,
they'll
so
actually
Kickstarter
like,
kind of thing. Yeah, fun.
yeah, but then I've seen separate Kickstarters where people try to get a game funded. Not all games are available through Steam, but every game that's Linux that I've,
But if I were a game developer, I could.
you can absolutely publish on
Yeah, it's a
Steam.
distribution channel,
Get a
just
cut
like
of
that.
money
So.
and then-
Yeah, I don't know what the exact cut is. Also, a lot of the games are DRM. I mean, RMS isn't going to be setting this up, but the DRM is optional per the publisher. There are some games that are like
Yeah.
non-DRM and stuff.
RMS loves this.
Yeah.
What are you talking? He just won't tell.
A humble bundle, a lot of stuff goes
Keep
to
those-
Steam.
Yeah, yeah. So I did notice I did buy a Humble bundle, and one day I logged in and it was available in Steam, but I haven't messed around with it yet. I really wish this
They
worked.
give you the codes.
Yeah.
So you're gonna set up your surround sound in your home?
Yeah, it's a PC. I mean, it's got HDMI out, and then the games themselves support it. I didn't even do anything. Sound Pulse Audio and I just worked out of the. I couldn't believe it. Oh, and the last thing, this guy on GitHub created this thing called Ice, which automatically downloads a whole bunch of emulators and tiles and integrates them into Steam. So if I was playing like Sonic the Hedgehog and a whole bunch of stuff, and breaking I was doing a lot of trademark infringement, but that's okay.
Copyright.
Copyright infringement, yes. It's pretty cool to play the old Sega Genesis games and things like that. And the emulators scale it up, so it actually looks better than it did. So it's like a 1080p, and I wanted to show that off. But yeah, you just need a PC. They recommend NVIDIA. I don't. You can just Google for Steam Machine requirements, and that's it. I'm gonna be doing regular updates like on my blog, but.
Why don't you restart the machine and see if it'll.
Where's your gear?
Oh, I could. Well, as we start to clean up, maybe I'll just fire it up.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because Steam built like its empire doing Windows gaming, and then they realized Microsoft's all kind of about the Xbox now. And they're like, well, if we were to build our own platform on Linux, we could kind of be in charge of our own destiny, which is pretty cool. So I think that's cool. I think, so I have a dual boot. I'm replicating it also in Windows. Let me just show you that one. They're both about the same level of finish. It's just that a lot of the games still only run on Windows. So I have a dual boot Windows and Linux Steam machine.
So there's Steam and there's Valve. What?
Valve is the company, Steam is the software.
Ubuntu is the software and Mount is the same.
So I think them building a console was cool. I think them making the OS, because they could have just derived Steam and not made it so open. They didn't have to make the controller open, but they're making a whole, they want people to build their own boxes and to, this should work.
Yeah, it doesn't shoot it.
So it depends. I mean, this is a fast one. So this is a game with full controller support. So what's cool is when you're playing the games, you have access to your friends, so you can chat in real time and stuff. One thing though is they still haven't figured out a lot on the console stuff, right? Steam came from being like basically a game launcher. So there's right now there's currently no way to quit a game unless you hit escape. And then going on. So you can see they still have, they're like 80% there. And then since I am loaded here, I might as well just show you and then I'll stop. One of the problems is I found myself just hacking with things so long I totally lost track of time.
No.
It's 3 in the morning, that's not normal for me. So, a lot of fun. If you have any questions, you can just ask me. And I have no idea what's going on right now.
So George, the relationship of SteamOS to Linux and Windows, SteamOS would be
So they
the
say-
third that you could boot into?
Yeah, so what I would do here if SteamOS were to come out today is just run SteamOS instead of my own cobbled together Ubuntu launching Steam into a full thing. What they say, so they say the hardware is going to be available in 2014 for people to actually buy, like from Newegg, you buy one and then put your own.
Steve already loaded.
Yeah, or what, they don't really get there. They're like, hey, we're going to sell our own, everyone can do whatever they want. What they say they're going to be able to do is if you have a Windows machine, you'll be able to stream your Windows games to your Linux console that's actually in your living room. So I anticipate, what they say is that I'll be able to put this in my closet somewhere and stream the Windows games onto the Linux console, and that'll kind of handle, no one's going to go back port all their old Windows games to Linux. But what they're doing is they're working with publishers to encourage them to publish their new games on Linux. So if you can get 90% of the performance by streaming them over to the Linux machine, that should cover most cases.
And SteamOS is a version of Linux that is Debian-based and has a lot of similarities to Ubuntu.
I guess George.
But it is Linux, and they're not pretending that it's some new OS or anything. They're very open about that.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty
There's
cool.
no official relationship between them and
Use something that's already done.
And we needed someone to muscle NVIDIA and AMD to fix their drivers, and especially.
well, they're gonna muscle one. So we still need one more muscle.
So even if you don't have a dedicated machine, you do have a Linux machine at home, just fire up some Steam. You have plenty of casual games that are really simple and stuff. I'm done.
Excellent.